Hello and welcome to Backstage with Gig Performer. My name is Brett Pontecorvo, and we are here every Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you might be looking at your clock right now going, Brett, it's not 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. What is going on? And that's because actually right now we are streaming a pre-recorded episode with today's special guest. So go ahead and do let us know where you're tuning in from in the comments. Say hello. The Gig Performer team is actually here live to answer your questions, so we'll be engaging with you in the comments. But this is an episode that was recorded actually yesterday. So go ahead and let us know where you're tuning in from. Say hello. If you're here because you know all about NarfSounds, we're so happy that you're here. And I guess I've already given away our special guest for today is Francis Capistrano of NarfSounds. If you've been following us for a while, then you will know Francis has created several sound packs, 3, I think. He can correct me later if I'm wrong, specifically for Gig Performer. So in today's episode, we're going to be going over his workflow, how he goes about doing that, and some of the benefits you get when you move to Gig Performer, especially if you're used to working in hardware where everything is done in a particular fashion, some of the renewed flexibility that comes with working in a computer-based software like Gig Performer. We've got all of the information about his sound packs and what he does at NarfSounds in the description below. So if you hear anything today that you're excited about, you want to try out his products, we've got all of those links. But without further ado, let's bring on today's special guest, Francis Capistrano. Welcome to Backstage with Gig Performer, Francis.
Hello, how are you?
Doing good, man. Thank you so much. It's currently, what time is it?
Thanks for getting the good picture.
Yeah. The SEO of Google has worked in your favor. That's the number one result that comes up when I type in your name. Which is amazing. Francis, what time is it? You woke up super early to do this interview.
It is 7 in the morning. I woke up at around 4:30.
Wow.
And I didn't mean to. I meant to wake up about 30 minutes before, but I couldn't get back to sleep.
Man.
So I just did my work and got ready for this. Yeah.
Well, we're grateful you're here. Before we just pressed record, I asked you where on earth Narf came from. I feel like people might be interested in that. If you want to give us some background.
So it's my first name is Francis, and back in school, there were about 5 or 6 of us named Francis. So you either got called by your second name, your surname, or mine got flipped around. So Francis becomes Sis Narf, and then Narf stuck. So that was that became me.
Which turns out to not be the best nickname to have when you live in Australia.
Yeah, because Australians drop their R's. So once upon a time, I had my name badge made up. And okay, what do you want to put there? I want Narf. Oh, sure, Narf. And then, no, it's Narf. Arf, Narf. And then, Narf. Forget it. Just call me Francis. And it's such an uncommon name here anyways, so.
Francis is uncommon?
Yeah. I often gets misspelled in coffee places as well.
Man, I love the various misspellings of coffee places.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, you didn't even try, man. The most common misspelling of my name is Rick.
Right. Yeah.
Which I'm like, that's not the same name. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, the funny variations I get.
Yes.
But,
yes. I gave you a little bit of an intro, so I think folks know NarfSounds, sound packs, but for folks who don't know who you are, how would you describe who you are and what you're doing?
Well, I've always been playing keyboards. Started playing in bands since the 90s, so mostly cover bands. Started off with the usual post 80s stuff. I started in 1992, so I was doing a lot of Van Halen, the heavy metal, or before the heavy metal meltdown, so Van Halen, Skid Row, that sort of repertoire.
Yep.
And then in the 90s, sort of the rock was alternative was the popular music. So it was difficult for a keyboard player to fit in those bands. And later on, I joined like a pop band. And yeah, I've been doing that ever since.
Mm-hmm.
Then moved to Australia
Mm-hmm.
and worked in music retail, selling keyboards and pianos.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I've been doing for a long time, and at the same time playing in a band. Yeah. So when I got my keyboard, I decided I gotta justify getting this thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I joined a band, answered an ad, and I was we've been playing for about 13 years
Wow.
together for that same band.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what I've been doing. And every now and then I get called to do fill-in work. And when I get called in, they give me a list of maybe 60 or 70 songs, not telling you which ones you're gonna play for the night.
Right.
So, aside from having to learn the songs, you have to prepare your keyboard, get the sounds ready to play the gig. And a lot of the times you get very short notice for these things. Usually on a Thursday, you get a call for a Saturday gig.
Mm-hmm.
And then, all right, so give me the set list. And okay, so, here's a bunch of songs that I have to learn. And there are some songs that you have to have the sound, otherwise, it's not the song, right?
Right.
You can't play Jump playing a Rhodes piano.
Yep. Right.
And that's what
Yep.
I once showed up to a gig with a chord Kronos. And the drummer goes, thank God it's not a Nord. Because a lot of the guys that come in with a Nord would play their presets, Rhodes pianos, and it was a rock outfit. So,
Yeah.
that was always about getting the sounds right for particular songs.
Mm-hmm.
Simple things like Uptown Funk, for instance.
Yep.
Everybody plays that now,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to have those samples if you're going to pull that off live. Otherwise, it's not the song. So
Yep.
there's a lot of examples of that, especially the 80s stuff. So that's why I worked on a lot of 80s because they have very specific synth sounds and people know them. People recognize the sounds.
Yep.
So got to deliver that for you're delivering nostalgia really.
Yeah.
You're entertaining aside from just playing, and part of that is being able to connect with your band with a band with the sounds that you know.
Right.
So
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean,
hmm,
that's ultimately like you're delivering an experience. People want to
exactly.
go out and
Yeah.
really be immersed, and the Rhodes piano doesn't always cut it.
Yeah.
So, what
Yeah.
was your first keyboard that made you go like, "Wow, I have a real keyboard now"? What was your first
Yeah,
hardware?
I got a Roland JD 800 back in the 90s.
Okay.
And that's how I learned how to program because the JD 800's got this front panel with all the parameters in front of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to use it back then. I was just really overwhelmed.
Yep.
But eventually, you hear a sound and you're able to replicate what you hear or try to get close to it.
Yep.
You start with the presets and then work from there. Recently, I got another JD 800,
Nice.
so I've got one right here.
Nice.
Yeah, but that was my first real keyboard, and then moved up to a Triton Studio by Korg,
Mm-hmm.
and that was great because I started doing sequencing. So I was once in a band, and then back in Manila, where I'm from, a lot of bands scaled down to playing acoustic gigs.
Mm-hmm.
From a 5-piece, you'd be a 3-piece, and it would be a guitar player or a cajon player.
Yep.
But I was a keyboard player, so I I recorded I did my backing tracks. I recorded my own backing tracks and played keyboards over that.
Wow.
And so the sounds of the synth had to be right, as well as recording the band in the keyboard essentially. And it was a 3-piece, and we did pretty well. We were landing gigs that were meant for full bands.
Wow.
So
Wow. The
that's
Korg
how.
Triton was my first keyboard, my first
Right,
real
yeah,
keyboard, and
very powerful.
the sequencer was
And
exceptional.
that's why Gig Performer is pretty familiar because it's you can make the layout much like how the Triton set up. You've got all your different timbres and you can put them together and lay out your zones and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And but and at the time it was groundbreaking because it was the only touch screen keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only keyboard with a touch screen with the tracks visible. and the Triton Studio had 2 tracks of audio.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were gigging, we'd record the back vocals of the singers, and they'd sing over them. So songs like "Man in the Mirror" by Michael Jackson. So those have very specific sounds, but in the middle of it, there's a full choir singing. So they had their own backups, and it sounded huge.
Yep.
So on stage, we had a Triton Studio, and that was the act. And everybody was going, you sound like a full band. You
Right.
sound like the record. So,
Why
or even better, because yeah.
why was the culture to scale back to 3 pieces?
I don't know. It just happened. There was sort of this acoustic fad back then, right? That was in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of bands were just playing acoustic guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is the time of John Mayer and that sort of
Probably about that, right?
probably. I think it was that when it was cool to play just acoustic guitar and
Mm-hmm.
a more laid back vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But I was kind of not that. It was the opposite of that. I was using the tech, and
Yep.
the Triton Studio was the most advanced keyboard at the time.
Yep.
And those who had a similar act would have the older setup, wherein they'd have a keyboard in a separate sequencer, and in the middle of a song they'd be switching their floppy drives,
Right.
and with a Triton, you just organize your sequences the way your set's going to be played, so it was seamless.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
that was really nice. And the songs we were playing were band songs. They weren't cut down versions of songs that people would play acoustically.
Right.
So you'd have the full instrumentations, the drums. So yeah, that was the
Wow.
setup.
And that came after your Roland. Is that what you got? Roland? Is that what you?
Yeah, well, my Roland,
Was
I
first.
had that in the early 90s.
Got it.
I think 93 to around 96, and then later on joined another band. And the JD 800 was notorious for the red glue issue, where the weights would fall into the key bed. So I have this Roland JD 800, which is a pretty heavy board, and it's not easy to transport. And I use that as a module.
Mm.
Essentially, I just brought it to a gig and played whatever keyboard they had at the venue.
Got it.
Because back in Manila, the venues would provide the drums, all the amps, and the keyboard, the main keyboard. Usually a Roland RD of some description, a stage piano of some description.
Got it.
So you could just MIDI up your modular keyboards and off you go.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Wow. So you've been on a journey, because those hardware boards, early 90s, and I mean, I can see behind you have a bunch of hardware. How'd you end up in the land of gig performer? How did that happen?
Well, I got another keyboard, and I was hoping to do. So I got an Arturia Astrolab,
Got it.
and I wanted to do my complex setups on it, but it couldn't. You're limited to 2 layers, so I was just hoping that it could do it, because it was a cool looking keyboard, and the promise, or the implied promise, was that whatever software you have on your keyboard, your Arturia software on your keyboard can become portable.
Mm-hmm.
Your setups.
Right.
But it didn't allow for the complex setups you're able to do on, say, a Kronos or a Montage or a Phantom.
Got it.
So unless you were going to stick with one sound at a time, it wasn't going to work. And that's the sort of style of playing that I have. I usually bring one keyboard on stage, usually just the 61, but fill in the roles of all the keyboard taking all the keyboard parts from start to finish. So there's a lot of splitting, a lot of layers. You put a sample here and there. So that was the setup, and couldn't do it with just having one sound at a time.
Got it.
So when I got that keyboard, it came with Arturia V Collection 10.
Yep.
So I heard about Gig Performer about a year before, and I've been wanting to start making sounds for a software-based platform.
Mm-hmm.
But my main concern was whenever I do a pack, say on a Kronos, I'm guaranteed that it's going to work on a Kronos, right? You
Right.
give a Kronos file, my sounds are going to sound exactly the same. It's going to work exactly the same if you've got a Kronos. Same with a Montage or a Phantom.
Yep.
But with a computer-based system, people have different controllers, people have different software, the specs are different,
Yep.
your amplification is different. So that was a concern. And then are the patches going to load properly? And it's a computer-based system, so is it even going to work for you the way it works for me, or are you going to have the same playing experience as I will? And so that's a big concern because I don't want to offer something that I can't support. And there's this gray area. What is it gonna? Is it gonna be a support nightmare? I'm not a computer guy, so
Mm-hmm.
I just want to play
Right.
sort of
Yeah.
sort of
Of
thing.
course.
But when I met up with Dave of Gig Performer,
Mm-hmm.
David, he showed it to me within 10 seconds. I was, wow, this is a lot better than I expected,
Wow.
because all of your patches, all your settings are contained within the Gig Performer universe, really.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody gets a pack and opens it up in their machine, for as long as they have the plugins, it's gonna sound and work as expected.
Yep.
So I was sold.
Yep.
And I think we spoke. That was over a year ago, and we spoke. I think it was on a Thursday
Mm-hmm.
or a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Downloaded it on a Saturday. By Sunday, I had this Africa set up,
Wow.
and I had
Is
this
that the
video
one
on
that you have
YouTube.
here? This Africa?
Yeah, that's the one that I set it up
Wow.
within 24 hours of downloading it. I watched a couple of your videos and
Awesome.
a few others, and it all made sense. Okay, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting, many folks that we interview have some sort of a journey through software. It sounds to me like
Mhm.
you didn't really have a desire necessarily to move to hosting your sounds, but opportunity or friction presented itself and you were looking for a solution to what the Astrolab promised.
Well, that's one of the. I've been wanting to go to software because
Okay.
that's where the keyboardists are going.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
a lot of the owners of the Kronos and the Montage would have some software would have software of some description along with it,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some people who've moved completely out of hardware, usually because of the convenience of it.
Yep.
It's heavy, and it's easier to take a laptop to a gig,
Yep.
and now there's no more noticeable difference between the quality of sounds. In fact, the sound quality on, say, the Arturia V collection is probably the most um, accurate you'll get
Mm-hmm.
if you're after doing the 80s, or there's Cherry Audio and a lot of others
Mm-hmm.
that are indistinguishable from the real thing.
That's right.
And when I worked on, say, the Van Halen stuff, I got myself an Oberheim, and I'd make the patches on the Oberheim and recreate it on the software, and I couldn't distinguish one from another once I was done. You can't tell the difference. So
It's
you
really
begin to
cool.
question, did I buy all this for nothing? Because I could just, do
Yep.
that.
You
But
know,
it is still nice to have the real thing. It's still the tactile
Yep.
experience that you get.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, it makes you question that, though, because if it's just about the sounds, then just go with software.
Yeah. I was chatting last week with Matt Pinn, who's played for a lot of, high profile people. And he was saying when he goes into the studio to record, he defaults to VSTs even over the hardware if the hardware is present in the studio. Because
Mm.
the sounds are indistinguishable and because the engineers are more comfortable just taking an audio line than miking up a B3,
Mm.
which I thought was absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
Really wild. So you're deeply familiar with hardware, and now I'd
Yeah.
say you're
Yeah.
deeply familiar with Gig Performer. You've made 3 sound packs. tell me.
in 3 months.
Well, yeah. So maybe we should just start there. What typically,
Yeah.
if you're building hardware sound packs, what's the time investment and what are some of the challenges that you face when you're building sound packs for a piece of hardware?
Yeah. Well, I try to get the latest keyboard out there. And so when the Montage or the Phantom first came out, there was a learning curve to be overcome.
Mm,
So before I could even work on a sound pack, I had to learn the machine. You know,
right.
I had to know what waveforms were available, what the features were, and it actually took several sound packs before I got really familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got my Montage back in 2018, um, I had it for 3 months, and I started working on a pack then. But when I look at my pack from that time, it's been seven or 8 years, and I look at that, and the work is so I feel
Sure.
like I could have done better.
Sure.
And you could tell that I didn't know it as well as I do now, but there was that huge learning curve to be overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And it's specific to the machine. If you're coming from, say, a Korg to a Yamaha and then to a Roland, the workflow is completely different from one brand to another.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first challenge.
Yep.
Um, uh, the nice thing about it, though, is a lot of the songs that I make are the same. Like whenever I get a new keyboard, I think I start with Africa. That's the first keyboard. That's the first challenge.
Oh, okay.
Do that song, and and it's a good way to learn it because there's so much to it. You program the brass synth. I try to program in the harmonies,
Mm-hmm.
and do the solo one-handed.
Mm-hmm.
You can play the solo. It's meant to be played two-handed.
Yep.
But that's the challenge. How can you make the harmonies built in? So you have your separate tracks, and then you have your melody line, and then each track becomes a harmony note.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first pleasant thing I discovered about Gig Perform because of the chord maker feature.
Right.
You play one note, and you can have another note play in its place or along with it.
Yes.
So it's not just making chords, but you can make harmonies with it. Well, a chord essentially is a bunch of notes that harmonize with each other.
Right.
But each note that you play can just have a harmony note, because when you're playing the solo, say, of Africa, the intervals of the notes aren't absolute.
Right.
It's not a perfect fourth. It's not a minor third or a major third. They alternate. They follow the scale.
Mm-hmm. Can you show
And
us
unless
how
you
you
have-
built that? It's the patch we're
Yeah,
looking at
yeah.
now. So
That
is this
patch.
for the like flute solo that you're talking about?
This
The
is for
harmonies?
yeah. So when you're doing the song, right, there's really three parts to it, and you've got your intro where everybody knows that.
Yep.
And using Gig Performer, I had the CS80 software version.
Yep. Right.
So I think that's what they use. So it's pretty close.
Yeah. It's when I hear it,
And,
I know immediately.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And then the song entails doing this during the verse. There's that bit
Yep.
when you're doing the refrain, right? And the riff for the right hand goes, oops. It's these. It goes like that. But there's an overlap between the brass and the marimba. So what I did with this one is the C note is actually, can you see it?
I can't, but
can you
if
see my keyboard?
you pop into your
yeah, I
wiring
can-
view,
Yeah. Can I? I'll put it where I am. Hang on a sec. Let me just. How's that?
let me make you full screen. Hold on. I'm gonna swap you. One moment.
Yeah.
Yep, go for it.
Yep, you can see it, right?
Yep.
So when playing it, you have your left hand chords, right?
Yep.
And the marimba part is usually played up here.
Yep.
But what I find when you're playing it down here, you have to jump up here, and there's not enough time to get back and nail the chord when you're coming from here. The usual setup is you'd have a second keyboard parallel to your main keyboard and do the marimbas up here and then jump down.
Yep.
And it's since they're aligned, there's no big jump. So it is all about finding a solution. How am I able to play it in time? And one of the solutions is, what if I just play it one-handed and have the harmonies built in? And then you realize, wait a minute, there's an overlap of notes. So like on the C here, I play the C note instead of the B. So that's actually moved up in pitch.
Got it.
Moved down in pitch. So I have that cheat note, and that's how I set it up with all the sounds. With all of the platforms I make this on. I always do it. Except for the Nord, because there was no way to split it up and build in the harmony. So the Nord version I had to play as the proper way, which is two-handed and just the normal way. But with any other workstation or a gig performer, I had to do that. But the big thing with gig performer is the solo itself. So when you go to the solo, there's actually 2 different sets of harmonies and 3 different sets of sounds.
Okay.
So the solo goes and then you go. So the first solo is just the flute.
Yep.
Right. It's just the flute itself. And you have a different set of harmonies from the first part of the solo to the second part of the solo because of the chord changes on the left.
Yep.
And then when you get back to the third part of the solo, it's the same set of harmonies, but you have a second layer of sound. So it's when you get to the second solo, you have the flute and the marimbas. And when you get to the third part, it's the same harmonies as this one, but with a marimba sound.
Yes.
So how I set it up in this panel is can you see my cursor?
So the short answer is no. Let me bring on the other view. Okay.
There you go.
I can see your cursor, but I can't see your face. But this is fine. Go ahead and show us what you're
That's fine. Yeah. All right. So what have I got here? So I think I've got the harmonies here.
Yep.
So I've got a button that I've assigned to a chord maker that switches it on and off.
Yes.
So I've got 2 sets of harmony, which are represented by these buttons.
Yep.
And these 2 knobs are the volumes of each layer. So there's 2 layers. We have the marimba and we have the flute, right?
Yep.
So the first part, it's just the flute, but harmony 1. And then second part, it's the flute and marimba. So you see the volumes go up, but it's a different set of harmonies. Wow. And when you go to the solo, it's back to the first set of harmonies, but both of the volumes of the 2 instruments are up. So how that looks like in the wiring section, it's really simple, actually. It's just the one rack space with 3 different variations.
Yep.
And when I name my control, I usually either call it lower or upper control, lower control. So this one's the solo main, and these are the 2 harmonies. The buttons bypass the harmonies, and that's what.
Wow.
That's so it's simple. This is the brass part, and normally when you play that, you let go of the left hand and let the band play your harmonies as you're doing the solo. But with this setup, you can actually. You can play the left hand and still do the proper solo with the harmonies built in.
Yes.
So that's the beauty of it.
Are you transposing your left hand up an octave, or is that at pitch?
The left hand is transposed. So because, you don't need the lower notes. And
can you show how you
the
did
way
that?
I program.
Can you open the MIDI In Block and talk
sure,
about that?
That's the lower. And that would, so this is it. You can see it. Can you see the
Can you
MIDI in
bring it a
block?
little? Yeah, there we go. Now I can see it.
That is, yeah.
Yep.
Is it transposed? Yes, it is.
Beautiful.
There it is. It's an octave higher.
Beautiful.
So I could have also put in a transposer block.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
That
Multiple
could
ways
have
to
been
do
a
it.
thing. But no, I've got a different rack space than my main sound. So the main sound, this is at normal pitch.
Aha.
And then we've got the marimba.
Yes.
Yep. And then you've got the refrain where it goes, where the piano comes in, and you need that B. That's why I sacrificed the
Aha.
the B for the marimba. So as I move my my control pedal, it brings in the piano, and it also brightens up the brass. And there it is.
Wow.
So that's
wow. So it's wild to see this all broken down because there's so much happening, but when you have everything split appropriately, it's very playable.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this was it was a dilemma back in the 90s when I was doing this. You know, I want to play it one-handed. It's not an easy solo to do live.
Yeah.
So, you know, your first thing, the first thing you think about, maybe I can just create a harmony note that's a perfect fourth below. And then you realize it works on some notes but not on others.
Right.
And then you can't do it on an older keyboard, not that way. And then the Kronos came out, and the workaround was you'd have several tracks, you'd have several timbres within a combi, and then each track would have a different tuning and a different zone. But with this one, you don't even have to think about that. You just you know, put a chord maker in the path.
Yep.
And you can see it here. Marimba, upper C only, so that's the cheat note.
Yep.
I think. And then harmony -6 and harmony -5.
So are these just transposed MIDI in blocks, or are those chord makers?
Yeah, that's all it is. Let me have a look.
Yeah, they're MIDI in.
So these are transposed MIDI in blocks.
Wow.
So I didn't even use the chord maker for this one. I used it for the actual solo.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So remember, I made this within the first 24 hours of getting Gig Performer.
Yeah, we talk about this often. You know, to some degree, all that matters is that you produce the sound in a reliable way and people get to enjoy it, right? Like,
yeah.
So it's kind of cool that you see people taking all these different approaches, and so you said you built this in the first 24 hours, is that right?
Just 24 hours. I literally have a video, Gig Performer first 24 hours Africa.
Wow. Do you,
and
on a typical hardware board, how long does it take you to build your first sound if you get something new? Like your first, cover sound?
Yeah, well, it depends on how easy the board is to use in the first place.
Sure.
You know, if it's so I've been a chord guy because of my Triton Studio. That's the one that I got good with in the programming side of things. And when I first got my montage, it did my head in because the terminology was different, the workflow was different. A lot of the stuff that you're familiar with are in different places or called something else.
Yep.
Or you'd have familiar parameters that did different things or would behave differently.
Yes.
So you'd have to get over that. But the setup itself is the same. So this is how I would set up Africa on any board.
Yep.
And so the solutions are different per board.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Can you talk a little bit about the MIDI in block? I know in one of our previous conversations, you were saying the MIDI in block alone makes Gig Performer significantly more accessible in comparison to working with hardware. And I'm not really a hardware guy, so I only know part of the picture on that, but maybe you can talk
Yeah,
about it a bit.
well, because we were working with blocks and not strips, your MIDI and your sound aren't married to each other.
Got it.
Your MIDI control and your sound generation isn't one thing. They're two separate things.
Yes.
Which means that, if, for example, on a hardware keyboard, to do this, right? So yeah, you
I
got
can
the
see your
keyboard,
hands.
right?
Yeah.
So I've got my cheat note here.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to, and say you've got the same sound here, and you've got the same sound continuing there, and you have a different sample here.
Yep.
So to be able to do that, you'd have one strip making this sound and a duplicate of that same sound over here and a third sound over here, right? So you're eating up 3 strips,
Yes.
2 instances of the same sound and a different sound here.
Yes.
On gigperformer, you have the one sound distributed separately by the same. It's the same synth.
Yep.
Distributed separately by 2 MIDI in blocks, and you have 1 MIDI in block. So if you multiply that over and over with different setups, you're using up less. What do you call this? Less
Strips, instances,
power.
power. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. What do you call it? CPU.
I got it. Yes. Right. Because
Yeah.
you're not needing to have multiple instances
Exactly.
of a sound. It's just one sound
the
powered
same
from
sound.
different places.
Yeah. So imagine, what if I have a different sample here and a different sample here and a different sample here, but I want it to be all the same sound here. So you have to replicate it as many times as you have spaces.
Yes. So eventually you
you've
run out
got-
of space.
Exactly. Yeah. And your processing power as well.
Right.
You run out. You run out of polyphony, or you're using up too many plugins.
Yep.
Yeah.
People constantly talk about, I shouldn't say constantly, but folks who come over to the world of performing with gigperformer, and they're like, I want to be careful with my resources. Can my computer handle it? And
Yeah.
it's a valid question. You want to be intentional about your computer resource, but I think people forget you also have to be intentional about the resource of a hardware board. It's not like they have unlimited resource. So
you've got 61 keys. Well, that's the lowest common denominator as far as a giggable keyboard. Anything less, no, that's not a serious board anymore. You're just doing solos, or you've got a guitar. So you may have a 39 key. Right? No, it's a valid instrument. You're just doing, but you're not doing chords. You're not doing bass lines.
How many guitars do you own, Narf?
At one point, I had 3. I had 3.
I love it.
They're the nice ones.
I love it.
The Korg ones, but they were velocity sensitive, but they looked great.
Yeah. Well, Marty, who is amazing and does many gigperformer videos, shreds on a keytar like it's no one's business.
Right.
I've always secretly wanted to own a keytar, but I've never been able to pull the trigger on that one. So
yeah, there was a time where I joined a band. It was and they just wanted to play. They just wanted me to have an organ sound.
Yeah.
So okay, if I'm just gonna stick to one sound, might as well just bring a guitar in a module and do that.
See, I love it.
Yeah, but the limitation, my self-imposed limitation is I'm gonna work with a 61 key range.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, and try to fit everything there.
Mm-hmm.
And the ability to have your splits and layers and to change scenes. The idea is I just want to have one patch, one performance, and it's self-contained. So when you load up your sound, you don't have to look for your piano, you don't have to look for your strings, you don't have to look for your lead sound, you don't have to put them together at the gig. They're all together already for that specific song. So my packs are actually called by the titles of the songs. So it's the sounds to play a particular song.
Right. Yep. So it's interesting to kind of listen to you talk, because I hear your hardware language even coming through. But essentially, your output is the same, albeit potentially more accurate, because you're using actual emulations of the synths that were originally used.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one step less that I have to do. I don't have to try to recreate an Oberheim or try to make it sound like a Juno
Yeah.
because those are already there.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, but it helps to have the real thing around. Um, well, with my hardware programming. So, um, when I got a Juno 106,
Mm-hmm.
so one of the famous songs that's played on a Juno is "Take on Me" by Aha.
Yep.
By Aha, right?
Yep.
And one of my holy grail sounds was that main lead, that main riff.
Yep.
And I couldn't figure out how is this sound generated. There's a lower octave, there's what sounds like a pulse wave and what sounds like a saw wave, but I can't decide which is which.
Yes.
And then when you have a look at the real thing, you realize, okay, so there's a sub oscillator, there's a square wave and a saw wave slider
Yes.
button, and both of them are active at the same time. And so that accounts for the lower octave. The sub oscillator does that, and that unlocked the sound. So if I were to recreate that on a Kronos, I'd have to have one layer that's a saw, another layer that's a square, and another layer that's an octave lower than the three. So to recreate that on a Kronos, I'd have to have three layers.
Yes.
On gigperformer or Arturia, you'd have a Juno.
Right.
So you just play the Juno. And what if I want to play it two-handed? The riff they're played in octaves. Oh, I don't even have to do that because I can just put in a MIDI in block or what do you call it? A transposer.
Yes.
What do we call it?
Yeah,
This one.
MIDI transpose block.
MIDI transposer, right?
Yep.
So you have your regular signal and a transposed signal
Yes.
on the one layer.
Right.
So what would normally take three layers and two hands is now played one-handed, and would sound more accurate. So
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's interesting to hear you think about them as layers because that is actually what's happening. But I've never taken the perspective of that. They're absolutely layers. They're just being triggered from wherever you want to trigger them from. So it becomes...
Well, one of the things that I really like about gigperformer is when I make the sound, the making of the sound is one thing. Making it sound like the cover that I'm trying to recreate is one thing, but making it performable live on stage is another story. That's a whole different skill set.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Programming and being able to perform it and make it logical in a performance. So have you ever seen those guys with spinning plates in a circus?
Yes, yes.
Francis, when you're in a
can
circus,
you bring your face back? Unless you're showing stuff on the
sure.
keyboard. Yes, the spinning plate people. I know them well. I went to high school with a few of them.
They're fun to watch, but you're always scared for them because they might drop plates.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what happens when it's not set up properly. Sorry, let me just get my face back in. Let me find soon. Where am I? There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Welcome back.
So these guys, right? They spin the plates and they've got a lot of these things, and you run from one plate to another.
Yep.
And that's what it looks like when you haven't got the right setup. It may sound good, but people are worried that you're gonna mess up on stage. It's the same thing. Like I once watched. I went to a synth show and they had a modular system.
Okay.
It was really impressive. They had all these big boxes. They were patching things. So this guy was performing. It sounded amazing. There was a big, nice rhythm going on, some melodies going on, all sequenced, but he'd have to patch them through. And it looked like he was putting out a fire on stage. And it was hard to enjoy the music because you were scared for him because he looked like he was in a panic.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what I try to solve with the setups is you shouldn't look like that.
Right.
You should look like you're enjoying, right? And you should just go from one sound to another and play it normally. And I had a comment from one guy, "Hey, Francis, you look like you're just having, preparing your coffee on stage. Yeah. It's just so relaxed and looks like you're enjoying yourself." So that's the nice thing about gigperform because it makes it really easy to switch. Like one of the things I really liked about. It was the streaming audio and
Mm,
being able to change the different song parts as the song played. So
yes.
in a live situation, you might have a click track. If you know if you, it was a complex sort of arrangement wherein you've got arpeggios going and your drummer is playing to a click. So you can just have a click track as your audio stream, and um, when the um, when the relevant part comes in, it automatically changes for you,
Yes.
and you don't even have to think about it. You know it's going to change, and that's what I did when I was playing with a sequence with my Korg Triton.
Mm,
Since it was a sequence, the sounds would also automatically change depending on what part I was in,
well,
because it was already there. It was already
it was ahead of its
baked into
time.
the sequence. Yeah, but you're not playing alone with a sequencer. You've
Right.
got a band going, so it's going to be a bit more challenging. So it's probably going to be a click track,
Hmm.
and people have to know their parts. And but Gig Performer will do the sound changes for you.
Yep. And
Yeah.
and other things as well. You know, your workflow is so song based that it works. But you know, not just switching rack spaces, the streaming audio file player can adjust widget values. It can adjust
Yeah.
parameters directly inside the synthesizer. It can display reminder messages,
Right.
trigger
Yeah. Yeah.
GP script. I mean, a whole slew of different things can be done. I don't even remember what number of actions we're up to. Could be 19 or 20 at this point.
Yeah, and I
Um,
just use one. It's just gonna be the song part change.
yeah,
That's it.
yep. I mean that
So,
by
it,
itself is
yeah.
takes a lot of weight
So
off
it
your
could be a
brain.
filter cutoff. It could be a volume change. It could be anything. So it's pretty impressive.
Yep.
And I got to use it a lot because my workflow is I would program the sounds, and then day two would be set up. You know, try to figure out how to arrange it so that I can perform it,
Hmm.
and then shoot a demo to actually demonstrate that it can be played.
Yep.
You know, and it also exposes the faults of the programming.
Hmm.
If I can't pull it off in a controlled studio environment, it's impossible to do it live.
Yes.
So it also refines the programming itself. So that's sort of the road test.
Hmm.
And there are songs wherein you have to find workarounds for the scene changes. For instance, a Yamaha montage would have 8 scenes,
Hmm.
wherein you have different scene sound changes and so forth. But what if you need to change pedal position or volumes or cutoff frequencies and all that? Sometimes you're also reaching out for controllers,
Right.
not just the scene buttons.
Right.
So you're thinking about playing the song, you're thinking about changing the sounds, and then you're worrying about all these twiddling.
Yes.
And when you've got Gig Performer, it just plays the song and you don't even think about that. Just stick to the playing.
Yep. Yep. And
And
that's
that's
what
what
it's
a lot
about.
of people want to do is just show up and play and not have to worry about that on stage.
Yep. Absolutely. We're getting close to the end of our time here, so folks who are watching, which I realize you're not here, but do feel free to put questions in the comments. It's weird when it's pre-recorded, but there's so much good stuff here. But I do just want to do an explicit call. If you have any questions that you'd like to be answered, do put them in the comments. Francis, should we talk through maybe one other patch, and then I'll hit you with my final question here. What's
Sure.
interesting that you've got up going on?
Okay, I've Radio Gaga.
Okay, let me
You know,
bring
it's
it
one
up.
of those.
Yes.
It's another holy grail. That was a holy grail sound for me
Yes.
because you have to nail that bass sound to call it that. So there's a few things.
Mhm.
There's that bass sound, that one, right? And then
Yes.
you've got the flanger effect and the vocoder effect,
Yes.
and then of course the rest of the song.
Yes.
Now, they used a Jupiter 8 when they did that,
Mm-hmm.
and I've done this on a few keyboards, and not really happy with the result because you can't you can't sequence that because it's pretty dynamic, and that bass line would shift that arpeggio an octave up every now and then.
Right.
So until I actually got to see a Roland Jupiter 8 panel, that's the only time I discovered why things work the same a certain way. So
Mhm.
let me just find my Jupiter 8.
It's all the way on the
in
left,
Radio
right? The
Gaga.
bass control.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
So ARP bass is this one,
Yep.
right? And can you see the Jupiter?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there it is, right? So what I discovered was, okay, so it's got this part in the arpeggio section.
Yep.
There's the orange buttons if you can't see
Yep.
my arrows.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually shifts from a 3-octave arpeggio to a 4-octave arpeggio. And how you would do that normally on a keyboard is you would play one note and then switch to the higher octave with your thumb, and
Right.
you would swing your hand every now and then. But I think the way they actually did it was somebody was playing and somebody was pressing these buttons every now and then, or whoever was playing the bass was doing that.
Yep.
So what Gig Performers allowed me to do is that instead of having to touch these buttons, by the way, you can't even do it on Jupiter itself, on Arturia itself, but Gig Performer allowed me to be able to swap between the octave range by assigning a switch. So this switch, assign knob to, so I put notes in my own
Yes.
um,
It's helpful, man.
patches, rack spaces. Assign knob to switch or pedal or aftertouch. So
Yep.
let me see. Did I do that before? No, not yet. So I have to assign this to aftertouch. And what this does is it shifts the range from a 3-octave arpeggio to 4. There you go. So there you go. So it goes something like that. Right? And then when you go to the higher note, it does that. And I'm using the
aftertouch. Wow.
the aftertouch to trigger that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things I was really happy about. Oh, okay, finally I can do it and not have to change my playing
Yes.
to reach those. And yeah, so you've got the vocoder that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually it's a monk throat singing. It's a throat singing monk.
Whoa.
In the background, going through an arpeggio, and that's what you hear.
Wow.
And then we've got that.
Yes.
So it's that simple gesture that goes from a 3-octave to 4 octaves that I was so happy to have discovered. And you can do it on Arturia itself.
Mm-hmm.
Gig Performer actually, you could zero in on that parameter, and there's an arpeggio range parameter. You could do that. So
Wow.
that's one of my favorite things. And yeah, this is one of the earlier sounds as well.
Yep.
So I try to get my favorites.
Yes.
And another one I do all the time, and I think Paul Gear featured it as well.
Paul Gear did feature it.
Money for Nothing. Money
Yep.
for Nothing is a big one as well.
Yep.
And you have this arpeggio going, so it has to be faster. So in set list, it actually syncs to the correct
Yep.
tempo. So this is the intro for Money for Nothing. And on a regular keyboard, I have to do it on either a sample based or using an analog synth replication.
Yep.
But they did it on a DX7 or a DX1. It was one of the earlier songs made on an FM synth. And with this one, it's as easy as pressing that, and then you have your layer and that's made up of. It's a DX7. It's an actual DX7 emulation. So I didn't have to try to emulate a DX7. It's already a DX7. And then of course you have your. And one of the things that happens when that song is going is it starts to distort when the drum comes in, right?
Yep.
So you can replicate that by just doing aftertouch.
Yes. Yes.
And does that. So yeah, and again, what I was talking about, just soloing that one part, you'd have to break up um, a layer to several layers, and
Yes.
the one key range, one key arpeggio going on. You can
Yes.
control your volume that way, and then velocity as well. You can hear my keyboard. I'm slamming on it.
Yeah.
So when you're doing that, right? Play it normally, you don't hear it. It's just a pad.
Mhm. Yep.
And there's even this high pitched, sort of like a whistling sound.
Oh, yeah.
So it's actually several layers to get it going.
Yep.
And then there you go.
Man.
And
It's,
last one, One Visions. That's another one that makes it to all of my packs. It's something that I actually played back in high school. So,
I love it.
and you get that intro, right?
Yep.
And I'm doing that. But the fun thing about it is this. So I have a layer of. Can you see it? Can you see my
Yeah, I can
screen?
see. I can see Gig Performer.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
You can see Gig Performer, and so what I'm playing is I'm playing just one note, and it's doing both the string and that low.
Yep. I hear it.
That low bass that's moving.
Oh.
So yeah, and then you just flick a switch to get the flanger going.
Wow. Wow.
And that arpeggio actually shifts from. So on Gig Performers, the first time I actually got it right, the range of the arpeggio actually shifts from different octaves. So to do that, to change it dynamically while you're doing that, you can't really reach out for a knob if you got both hands.
Right.
So you use aftertouch, and as you dig into the note, it just does that.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
So it really gives you the ability to like play it.
there you go. So that goes in.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I was just saying it gives you the ability to actually play the instrument, play the sound. All of the
Yeah.
sounds become one instrument, and they kind of get
As one guy for the band doing all the
yes,
effects and such. Because
Yes.
there's as a keyboard player, you do a lot of work, and it's pretty thankless as well.
yeah,
We
Right.
we want to do this song. Okay, well, one, I have to learn it, and then I have to program the sounds for it, and then actually pull it off on stage.
yeah,
And it happened one time wherein it was a Friday night gig, and we had to start early, and we had to get up on stage, and our bass player calls us, and I won't be able to make it for another hour. Somebody's gonna have to, can you play left hand bass? So what I did, I just hooked up my keyboard to his bass amp and split the keyboard and have do the bass line. But essentially, I was doing the work of two people.
Yeah.
Really.
you definitely.
And so, and yeah, and you're expected to do it. If
Yep.
you're if there's no brass section or string section, you're the string section.
Yes.
Aside from the roads and your piano playing, you're gonna have to have the brass.
Mm-hmm.
So you play in a band wherein there's a saxophone player, but you're still doing the brass section, and it's a much bigger sound.
Mm-hmm.
Doing songs like Superstition or
Yeah.
anything that calls for a brass section.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah,
It's I appreciate you showing us all of this. I think it's a cool peek into how keyboard players think when they're building things, which is a whole different skill set. But I always like to ask everybody who comes through one final question, which I'm actually very curious to hear your answer to this one, which is if you were going to give a brand new Gig Performer user one word of wisdom for getting started with Gig Performer, what would you tell them?
Watch your videos. Really. Well, that's how I got I watched one of your 10-minute videos, and it got me started.
Well,
And but it's all about problem solving towards playing a particular song. You know, if you're just there to enjoy, then just you just stick a synth connected to the output, and you're off you go.
Yep.
Yeah. But what Gig Performer provides is a lot of solutions to the problems that you get that you're trying to solve when performing that don't come up until you've got the song in front of you.
Yes.
Yes. So a lot of the things you don't even think about. So a lot of the use cases for all these keyboards, all the software that you get, there are a lot of things they can do, but unless you've got a proper use case for it, it gets forgotten.
100%. Couldn't agree with you more.
So if advice, work on a specific song that you want to do.
Yep.
And then use Gig Performer. And when you compare it with any other thing, you realize how much faster it is to do it.
Yes, absolutely. We appreciate you so much, Francis. Thank you so much for waking up at 4:30 in the morning to come talk about Gig Performer with us.
Thanks for having me. No, I woke up by accident, but I couldn't get back. So.
I love it. Well, for folks who are watching, if you loved Francis's sounds, we do have a link in the description below. You can pop over to his page. He's got his Gig Performer stuff. He also has all of his hardware things as well. So do check all of that out. And Francis, is the easiest way for folks to get in touch with you through your website, or are you more
the website? Yeah, just NarfSounds.com. There's a chat feature that hooks up straight to my phone, and
all right.
Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night to have a look at it. It's a bad habit, but
great. Right, if you want to text Francis right into his bedroom, we'll do the chat feature. You can expect a wide array of messages coming in from me at the end of this interview, right from your chat. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to spam you, but I love it. Well, Francis, thank you so much for being here. Folks who are watching, we will be back soon.
Thanks for having me, Brett.
Yeah, such a pleasure, man. All right, friends.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Gig Performer, get it.
Yes. I love
Anybody who's after a software solution, this is it. Been looking for a while. I tried others. Didn't work out for me. And I actually decided, no, I'll just stick with hardware. But when the time came where, no, I think I got to go, explore the software option. And this ticks all the boxes. It ticked all the boxes for me. I saw a couple of features that were better solutions to what I had initially thought. Mm-hmm. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, we appreciate all of your work. The results are there. The results are there. Friends, check out Narf's packs. They're awesome. Narf, you're awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. All right, we'll see you all soon.
All righty. We'll see ya. Bye.